Hello, welcome back. We've been working on observation skills and describing artwork, and we'll now be applying that to a visual analysis essay in which you consider how the visual composition of an object creates meaning that you've assigned to it. You've hopefully at this point picked a subject that interests you. If not, you still have time, so try to pick an object that interests you in some capacity. And in this video, I'm going to work through one more example or brainstorm through one more example from a project that I'm working on, something that interests me. So without further ado, onward. In the early 2000s, Walla Walla painter James Lavadour began making lithographs at Crow's Shadow Institute of the Arts that he co-founded in the former mission church on the lands of the Umatilla Confederated Tribes in 1992, along with Cayuse artist Philip Cashcash. Three examples from that body of work are pictured here. To the left, we have Ghost Camp from 2003. In the center, we have Land of Origin from 2015, and to the right, we have Spring 2023, printed in 2023. Most recently, Lavadour printed Spring 2023 from 2023, and that's what I'm working on for an article right now. On your cover page in your essay, you're going to include an image of your object plus its identifying caption, which will look something like what you see pictured on the screen. So pictured on the slide, you see an image with some text next to it. You might also have that caption underneath your image, depending on the format or orientation of your image. So we have the artist's name. We always start with the artist's name if you know it. If you don't know it, it is okay. Or the collection that you're getting the image from will say unknown artist or maker or currently unknown artist, something along those lines. It's okay if you don't know who made your object. But here we have the artist's name, James Lavadour, and the title in italics. We italicize art titles of artworks like we do book titles or magazine titles. So we have Spring 2023, and we have the date of production, 2023. And then we have the medium, 7-color lithograph on Somerset satin white paper. So we have a pretty specific medium here. That's because of the way contemporary print workshops track color runs. Not all of you will necessarily have a medium with this specific of a list. It might say something like ceramic or oil on panel or oil on canvas or watercolor on paper, graphite on paper or other surface. So we have 7-color lithograph on Somerset satin white, followed by the dimensions 25 by 34 inches. It's pretty common for collections to exclude dimensions for a lot of things, so it's okay if you don't have dimensions. And lastly, we have the collection, Crow's Shadow Institute of Art, and the collection location, Pendleton, Oregon. And the formatting instructions are repeated underneath. And that is also repeated in your instructions and a template in a few different places. Now, moving on to what we see here. It's important to remember that we're focusing on information and meaning that we get from what we see, sense, or perceive from the image or object. You might have gotten, or you might get, some ideas about meaning, function, or purpose from a paragraph or blurb displayed with your object, or even the title of the object in the basic ID label. But we need to support that that with visual evidence, the details that you perceive in the object. A visual analysis will not answer all questions about your object. You'll probably have questions about specific uses or the place or people that made it. It doesn't really tell you anything about the person that made it beyond that they made something that looked this specific way. It won't tell you about the broader historical intersections. It won't tell you about how it's similar to or different from other kinds of objects. This is a very limited type of analysis, but it starts helping you make connections between the material and meaning, and making sure that you are not leaving the material thing out of the mix when we move on to other stages of analysis. There's a lot going on in this print. The large sheet of paper measures 25 by 34 inches, and it covered more than half of the study room table when I was looking at it in person. If you're listening to this or watching this on your phone, a tablet, or your laptop, that sheet of paper is almost certainly much bigger than the screen that you are studying on. It's a little bit smaller than my largest computer monitor that I do most of my research on, but it's a really big sheet of paper. It's important if you have dimensions for your object or another object is given for scale. It can be incredibly useful for thinking about the size of your object. So we have a really big piece of paper here, and it's absolutely filled from edge to edge with these intense blues and greens in different tones. And then we further have lines going in directions all over the place, sloping up, down, forming peaks and valleys, forming layers of space. So we have this series. We have lines in a series of broad strokes and variegated tones. So we have different widths, sizes, and colors of lines moving in multiple directions. These busy layers of lines sloping or shaped into intermittent peaks and valleys suggest kind of the form of a mountain or cliff, or perhaps another landscape feature. The broad areas of organic shape and line, along with the limited color palette, unify the surface. The repetition of those things across the entirety creates an expected quality or pattern in the entire composition or across the entire piece of paper. The artist uses that intense fluorescent yellow-green or highlighter yellow-green to create a focal point. He uses that yellow-green, that color, to emphasize the lower third of the composition and progressively guides the viewer upward through the yellow-green, and into the bright, intense blue. Eventually, the viewer lands on the small area of deep, nearly black navy blue comprising the background or the deepest layer of space, and it's also tightly layered that we're not or tightly compressed that we're not getting a perspectival view of space. This is not a deep illusion of three-dimensional space, so that compressed space provides limited visual access to what may lie beyond the depicted land features. Variety of line width and placement lends complexity to the space. An uneven, nearly vertical stroke of a medium green or Kelly green breaks up the lower left of the composition. A series of intermittent, wavy, organic lines, a series of spatter or sprayed dots break up the rest of the fluorescent green surface. The boundaries of the fluorescent green begin to blend with the blue at the edges. Blending produces these thin striations in alternating tones or colors of fluorescent green, forest green, and blues. Green eventually gives way entirely to tones of blue. Lavadour's progression of colors and blending in the lines suggests that the yellow or yellow-green layer gradually blends with blue to unveil a primarily blue surface. The green sits on top of the blue in this structure, if you will. Thick, uneven bands of bright blue break up the midground into multiple sections, following the blue stroke from the left side around the middle upward and zagging down. The center of the image at a diagonal creates an irregular trilateral or kind of squash triangular shape, an organic shape. A deeper blue, a medium royal blue, outlines the interior of that squash trilateral shape at a steep angle connecting to a series of variegated blue lines contrasting against the solid blue band. The combinations of lines creates the illusion of moving further back into space and into the earth, the ground itself. Lavadour alters the medium solid blue lines in places. For example, towards the right middle, intermittent bumps extend from the medium blue line or the royal blue line. Towards the upper middle section, the dark blue becomes smudgy and blurs the boundaries between the variegated pattern of lines and solid blue lines at a point or at a few points. And moving towards the upper left, 3 smudges of medium blue track from the bright blue into the deepest navy blue where they're barely visible. The royal blue line, with its varied density, texture, and patterns across the surface, acts like water eroding parts of the Earth's surface. James Lavadour provides no visual cues as to the specific place that he chose to represent in the lithograph Spring 2023. He overtly denies the audience a deep perspectival view of a recognizable place by composing the image with a compressed space of tightly layered shapes and colors and lines. This is not something we'll generally find in a travel postcard or travel documentary meant to introduce us to a space. Close examination of the diaphanous and variegated layers of color selectively unveil the eroded layers of land, the subterranean structures, rather than a mountain as I proposed in the introduction or other geological feature. Lavadour depicts the idea of geological time and the process that helps shape, change, and continually renew the earth over time. So this is the starting point. Visual analysis is a beginning to work through what you think about an object and how it creates that impact that you feel or perceive. I'm going to be using parts of this description, or maybe all of it, and maybe additional details still, to support other ideas in my research. And you too will be building on your visual analysis with other details throughout the term. So don't worry if you don't answer all the questions you have about an image or object right this moment. Focus on getting to know the object that you have picked as you see it and perceive it and sense it right now. Thank you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.